Hello, I am Dr. Kay Sweetser, and I want to welcome you to campaigns, but I do not want you to skip a beat, and I want you to be ready and moving toward your very first assignment, which is the research proposal. Now, the research proposal is due very quickly after the very first staff meeting because it sets the tone and the direction for the entire campaign, and everything has to build on that as we follow through in that RPI method: research, planning, implementation, and evaluation. We know we can't go to the next steps until we have research on lockdown and we've got it all figured out and we have all of those insights, which then drive our campaign. So when you're doing your research proposal, the first thing I want you to do before you sit down and start to go through the materials you need to come up with, I want you to really think about what the client said in the client meeting. So the client would have identified particular target audiences that they were interested in and would probably start to point you toward a desired end state. The client would say something like, we want people to know more about us, or we want people to be more willing to do X, Y, and Z, or we want people to like us more. We want to increase our reputation, or be more of a thought leader, or have more participation in things, or increase the feeling of belonging among the people that we serve. Whatever the case is, in that client meeting, your client gave away some really important key ideas about where they want to be, which feed into step one: research. So really enumerate what it was that the client wanted to achieve through this campaign, and then also make sure you're noting the target audiences. And then we jump into creating ways that we can do that measurement of how successful your campaign will end up being, while also creating insights to drive the campaign. So let's start with that first one. This is something that we're all really familiar with in the age of Instagram and Transformation Tuesday. If you were to post a photo of yourself on Transformation Tuesday and you were like, oh my gosh, look at me, Transformation Tuesday, right? Look at how I look. If people don't have that before photo of you, or they don't have those stats like your body fat or your weight, or maybe how much weightlifting you can do, or whatever the case is that you have transformed, if you don't have that before picture, then no one can look at that after and say, oh, you crushed it, way to go, you're looking awesome, right? So that after photo means nothing if we don't have the before. So a thing I want you to think about is, how do I create that before metric for my client? So this is probably going to be something like either a survey, or in the case of like a media campaign, it might be a content analysis. So if it's a survey, then you need to think about who are our target publics for the campaign, and what are we going to try to do to them? Are we going to try to increase their information, their attitude, or their behavior? And then you want to find a scale that measures that. And this becomes your before. You're going to repeat that survey on the end to be your after for your Transformation Tuesday. So that's one thing you really have to think about in going into your research proposal is, how am I going to be able to show my before when I don't even know what the middle is going to look like, what my programming is going to be through the middle, so that people can really appreciate my after. So consider that. And then the next piece is insights. How can I drive my campaign? How can I inform the decisions that I'm making and ensure that I am either hitting the right message, or using the best tactic, or fine tuning the way we approach things? Those insights really come from qualitative interviews. So that's another thing to consider as you are going into your research proposal: is who will we want to interview? on a one-on-one interview so that we can gain more information about how people think and feel and act toward our client with regard to whatever it is our campaign is going to be. Another thing that you can also do, of course, is a competitor analysis, so that you can look at that big field of everybody within that area that your client is in to understand what the best practices are, and then help inform what you should recommend for your client. So I want to start with, I think probably the most overwhelming piece of this is going to be putting together those materials. And I strongly recommend that as you do this, you divide and conquer. And so you have somebody on the survey, you have somebody on the qualitative interview. And I'll just go ahead and say, I do not need to see how it is that you will come up with your competitor analysis materials. You're going to do your competitor analysis separately. You don't need to run that by me, but these things you do want to run by me. A content analysis, a survey, or a qualitative interview. Those would be items that you would want to run by me. So I would divide them up so that everybody has his or her own role. So I'm sharing my screen here, and let me show you the Canvas page. In the Canvas page, you should be able to see what the research proposal is going to be. And in the research proposal, it's talking about everything that I already went through. Where are you now? What do your publics know? What do they want? What do you want them to know? How are they going to talk about you? And how do your competitors talk? So I have given you some examples of high quality research proposals, and one of those would be from the Cohen Clinic. Let me go ahead and kind of walk you through the survey portion first. So if you go to the very front page of your Canvas course, then you will see in the resources area, I have sample scales for surveys. And so if you click on that, you're going to come up with all of these different ways that you can measure. So if I'm going to do my Transformation Tuesday, I might measure, my success in the end by pounds that I weigh. It might be by VO2 max. It might be by body fat. It might be by dress size, right? There's a number of different metrics that I could use. So if I want to measure the attitude toward my client, I also have a lot of different metrics that I can go for. You cannot make up questions on your survey about complex constructs like attitude or really attitude. I'll go with that one, about attitude. And so there's another video that I have, the R in RPI, which is linked from that research proposal page that you should watch, which tells you why you can't make up questions. But to make your life easier, I have gone through and I've just included a bunch of different questions or scales that have been used previously. And these can help you in pulling different tried and true ways to measure certain items. So let's say that your client is interested in raising how much people know about their brand. And so here's a brand knowledge scale on this example of scales. And so this would be a Likert type scale on a scale of say 1 to 5. And then people would answer, when compared to other people, I know a lot about this brand. My friends consider me an expert in this brand. I consider myself very experienced in this brand. So if my brand were, we'll say Lilly Pulitzer, and I was giving me, Dr. Sweetser, the brand scale, I would say when compared to other people, I know a lot about Lilly Pulitzer. That's a 5. My friends consider me an expert regarding Lilly Pulitzer. Total 5, totally strongly agree. I consider myself very experienced with Lilly Pulitzer. Total 5, total agree. Now, if you were taking that questionnaire, you might be on the other end of the spectrums. You might even be like a 1 in there where you feel like you don't know anything about Lilly Pulitzer. Lilly, what's going on? So that gives you an idea of how two people can differ on a scale. So we have now measured the knowledge of that brand in a consistent way for two different people. Now, as you're going through these scale options that I have offered you here, it's very important that you do not tear apart the scale. So you can't say, I like this one question, but I don't like these other two. You get everything in that package. You cannot tear it apart. You have to take every single item in that package. So I need you to then create a sample survey, and you'll see in the Cohen Clinic one, they actually made their table of contents clickable, which is fantastic. And so they're telling me here who the target population is. They're giving me the rationale behind this. They're going to tell me how they're sampling. They have the survey instructions, and then they go into the survey. You can make up questions about demographics. No problem. Absolutely make up questions about demographics. But when it comes to things like these complex constructs, then you need to ensure that you're using all of the questions. And so you can see here, here's a knowledge scale. The knowledge scale is from U 2014. And so they've given me that scale source, so that I know that they did not make this up. It's very important for me that you do this as a part of this. So that's the survey. One of the other items that you can do is a content analysis. And so for your content analysis, you're going to want to look at the examples that I have on Canvas for you of a sample code sheet. And then for a qualitative interview, I want you to come up with the questions that you're going to ask in a qualitative interview. And you want to funnel them, right, from very general questions about the topic, then down into the very specific thing. As you are writing the qualitative interview, this is where your insights come from. This is where your messaging comes from. So ensure that you share your qualitative interview guide with the person who's in charge of messaging before you turn it in, before you end up pulling the trigger. So I want to see all of these materials in a single Word document uploaded to Canvas by the time that the assignment is due. This is fast and furious of trying to get in there and figure out how we're going to get started on the campaign. But if we waited much longer, if we waited an entire week before we did this, then we would already be behind. So keep in mind that this is an extremely important assignment that sets the tone and the direction and your ability to be successful for the entire campaign, and that I'll work with you to get it right. It's a group assignment, so no matter how many people work on it or who works on it or whatever, everybody gets the same grade. So find out how you can help with this assignment. And if you have any questions, then you can set up a Zoom with me. Good luck, and I look forward to looking at your research proposal.